So welcome to the conclusion of this year's Forever Horror Month. So take an in-depth look at the middle chapter of John Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy with the eerie and ominous Prince of Darkness. When an elderly priest and member of a mysterious brotherhood passes away, he leaves behind a foreboding diary and the key to a secret that can no longer be kept. Buried in the basement of an abandoned Los Angeles church is a canister of swirling green fluid, which contains the power and consciousness of what can only be referred to as Satan itself. After recruiting Professor Bierak and his graduate students of theoretical physics, further examination and research lead to the discovery of an anti-god, which has been influencing and altering our world to prepare for its arrival. The truth behind this was buried for 2,000 years, making the world believe that evil was an intangible and abstract idea, until science was able to prove what the church already knew to be true. However, with nature and vagrants alike being drawn to its power, the evil can no longer be contained. Now unable to escape this church, these people of science and one of faith must battle to survive this emerging evil and attempt to prevent a terrifying apocalyptic future from coming to be. So released to cinemas on October 23rd, 1987, John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness was kind of met critically with a lot of negative reviews, with people saying that it was kind of an under-executed, cheesy horror film with characters they really didn't connect with, and just wasn't kind of up to the style and execution they kind of become accustomed to with John Carpenter's films up to that point. But off of a $3 million budget, did recoup $14 million at the box office, making it a definite financial success, even if it wasn't very respected or revered or looked upon very nicely at the time. It has definitely gained a strong cult following that has very much appreciate the film over all these years. And the film has a little bit of an interesting genesis in a certain way, because after John Carpenter done Big Trouble in Little China with 20th Century Fox and become very disillusioned with the entire studio system of making films, really wanted to go back and do stuff in more of an independent type of way and just have the film being picked up and released by Universal Pictures. So he had a lot more autonomy going into Prince of Darkness to make the film he wanted to make, how he wanted to make it, and execute it the way he envisioned it. And the entire vision of the film really kind of came up when a couple of years before he was starting to look into quantum mechanics and quantum uncertainty, all these little things about physics and all these interesting little things, and trying to just inject something new and fresh into the makeup of a horror film. Not do the same old thing, but kind of throw in a new concept, see how it works. Let's experiment with something a little bit different, a little bit kind of off the beaten track and whatnot. And it's such an interesting film because Carpenter does put those elements in there to kind of flip things up on its head. That's not just the same old usual type of things with the religion and the theology, all these different things. It's very much a contrast between the science overtaking the mythology and the theology of religion and kind of morphing it into a brand new mythology of its own. So it's like so much of it, what he does with the film, maybe a lot of stuff that he calls gobbledygook mumbo jumbo, where he doesn't entirely understand exactly what he wrote in the film and how it all really functions together. But it was nice kind of interesting concept, again, to experiment with the entire format of the film, where there's sort of a siege mentality and this ominous, otherworldly type of menace kind of pushing itself into our world, which does kind of link back and forward to the other elements of the Apocalypse trilogy, which also contains The Thing, In the Mouth of Madness, where there's a lot of connective tissue thematically between these films, where like in the Mouth of Madness, there is a otherworldly force trying to influence and push its way into our world in a very different fashion. But it's so nice in the Apocalypse trilogy how there are different elements and different themes that really kind of thread through the different films, even if they seem on the surface that they're just kind of linked between the fact that they're all very apocalyptic type of stories that do carry along a lot of interesting elements that really kind of puts them all together thematically But what he puts together in this film with this different approach to everything, having the science sort of explain everything that's been kind of covered up with this mythology of religion and everything all these centuries, kind of like the Big Bang was kind of this evil force that just exploded out into the universe and just kind of created a piece of itself in every little thing into the subatomic particles, where this force from another dimension who's kind of like the father of the devil and everything, this anti-god who can just kind of control subatomic particles and influence the world through its other mirror dimension type of thing. It's all very interesting type of stuff that, again, Carpenter very much views as something that he doesn't entirely understand what he wrote in there, but it kind of creates a lot of things that are just presented as speculation. They kind of form into something that feels like it does fit with how things are progressing throughout the entire course of the film. So it is very much kind of little kind of fluid in a certain way. It's not entirely solid type of stuff that is presented in the films. Like a little bit of this kind of speculate and kind of theorize things here back and forth of how things progress and unfold, and all the strange occurrences flow through the film and everything. All these scientists, these students or whatnot, kind of put all the little pieces together and kind of theorize what exactly is happening and try to act upon all that type of stuff. It's very interesting. It doesn't feel like it bogs down the film terribly much. It might kind of contribute to some of the slow pacing of the film, but this is not a horror film where I think a fast, rapid pace could have ever worked to its benefit. I think the slow burn effect that John Carpenter employs with this film, slowly building up this relentless, ominous type of atmosphere in the film right from the beginning of it all, is just the thing that really works with the film, that just holds the film together so well, keeps you engaged in what's going on and unfolding and developing throughout the entire course of the film. This ominous feeling that's just permeating throughout the entire course of the film, and just how it builds and escalates and just closes in on these characters so much. It's such a thing that just strikes you so well. That Carpenter's done slow burn stuff before, but this definitely has a different feel to it in a certain way that is just very deliberate. It feels like this is very much John Carpenter hitting exactly what he wants to do at the exact stride it feels it really needs to kind of soak you into the beats of the film, the mood of it all this type of stuff that really has kind of going on throughout the entire course of this movie. I think the slow burn effect of Prince of Darkness really is very effective, and just like everything he does with the score of this film just adds into that so much. Him and Alan Harworth working on this just amazing score. This score that they put together for this film just has this relentless, ominous feeling to it, just creepiness to it, just from the beginning of the film. How just the opening title sequence just goes on, having this pulsating type of score going through with the signature synthesizer style from Carpenter. Everything in this whole film with this score just hits on such a perfect atmospheric level. It's just so present, strongly present in the mix of the film. It definitely jumps out at you and really kind of sucks you into the whole film. Just every little thing, just the score almost kind of reflects the pulsating evil that's creeping its way into the film, into the world of this movie and everything. It's very, very potent type of stuff that just hits off so extremely well. It's definitely one of the most strong scores from John Carpenter. It just has, again, an ever-present type of feel to it that just pushes forward and just keeps going on and just hits the striking moments of the film so extremely well, and just feeds into so much of the dread this film is just soaking itself into. I think they did a fantastic job with that, and just how this film lays out this sort of cryptic mystery with all these strange occurrences that keep influencing how the world is changing and all these different things. It's an interesting thing to just kind of pull you into the whole film and just like make you wonder what exactly is going on in this world. So it's such an interesting way to start out the film with just a mystery. You're just intrigued by exactly what is unfolding here and how all these pieces really kind of put together and everything interlocked in sorts. And the mystery of the film would be a little bit different if you've seen the television cut of Prince of Darkness, which re-edits the entire opening title sequence of the film to heavily imply that the rest of the film is simply a dream sequence had by the character of Brian Marsh, and removing elements of like the Brotherhood of Sleep and color pieces of expositional dialogue that makes the film much more ambiguous and much more surrealistic in a certain way, and just been such an anomaly for fans of why this version of the film exists and what the intent was behind it, and why someone just decided to restructure it in this type of way, which I'm sure was not really anything approved by John Carpenter, but whatever the case, that's the version that was broadcast over television for many, many, many years. And just seeing how this film, in John Carpenter's intended format, unfolds this mystery and just has all these elements built up through the entire course of the film towards such chilling, foreboding type of things. It's just a fascinating thing to see how that develops and how it affects the characters and how they just react overall. And how the characters are crafted into this film may not be its strongest element, because we've seen from so many other Carpenter films such as Escape from New York, The Thing, Christine, Big Trouble in Little China, that Carpenter can craft some very entertaining, charismatic, interesting, substantive characters. Prince of Darkness doesn't go for that quite so much, but it is very well cast in certain elements, having a lot of Carpenter regulars such as Donald Pleasance, Victor Wong, Dennis Dunn, future regular Peter Jason, and a couple other really solid actors throughout this whole thing that embody characters that don't hit as strong of a beat as you probably would like to, as you really get accustomed to with a lot of Carpenter type of films with his characters and everything, because it does kind of focus a little bit more on that mood and his mythology ideas and all these different things going on in the whole film, that does attempt to kind of build certain things with the characters of Brian and Catherine and everything, with a kind of love story that is supposed to be a kind of a strong, sympathetic hook throughout the entire film that I don't feel hits as strongly, but I can really see what he was going for and trying to really get that and kind of understand where the whole story was going between those characters and how the ending of the film really affects the character of Brian Mark, portrayed by Jameson Parker of TV Simon and Simon. But the film does give us a nice variety of different characters. Some people, like Dennis Dunn's character, is able to kind of give us a little bit of charisma, a little bit of a jovial type of quality to him, even though he's a bit of an asshole in the film and whatnot, but he's also very entertaining in certain points of time to give a little bit of a levity to the thing, give a little bit of variety. Even Peter Jason does add a little bit of that too in certain places, but like there's so many good characters that really just add different dynamics to the whole thing, like Victor Wong and Donald Pleasance's characters, who do bear the weight of drama and the exposition, able to get out all this theatrical type of talk and whatnot to really kind of get the film moving forward and kind of get the ideas planted into the consciousness of the audience to move the plot forward and everything. And just having a lot of good guys like, I really like Jessie Ferguson in this film, because he just adds so much to the whole thing, especially after he gets sprayed with the goo and everything and becomes one of these mindless servants, almost a zombie type creature, whatnot. He's eating it up when he's going up the stairs singing Amazing Grace and just stabs himself in the neck, and he's constantly just kind of laughing and cackling, just having this fantastic performance in this whole thing, and just having a lot of characters who just add a little something here and there to the entire proceedings, that everyone does have a little bit of something to add into the mix of the whole thing. Well, there's a debate, a little bit of exposition, a little bit of something here and there. So everyone just kind of adds something. They have a function to what's going on in the film, whether it's the girls who are doing the translations on the computers or something like that. All the characters are not just there just to be there, to be cannon fodder. They really just serve a function throughout the entire course of the film and having to decipher some of this stuff or deal with various other things. So it's like everyone is nicely put together in the film, a nice ensemble cast. It doesn't rival something like The Thing, which has a lot of very strong, very seasoned actors and have a lot of good dialogue and a lot of good things that kind of work off as a very strong character cast. Prince of Darkness doesn't have as much of that, but it does have nice actors who bring forth what they need to from what's in the script of the whole film. So I think they did a nice job, and having Jameson Parker here really kind of adds something into the mix that feels very grounded. It has a little bit of sense of gravity to him, that you are kind of a little bit around this character a lot in the film, but he's not so much a central focus, but he very much is more the higher tier type of characters in the film to really try to connect with, even if I don't feel like it entirely gets there all the way. But Carpenter really puts together a nice cast in the film that brings forth a nice sense of quality to it. But one thing you can always really count on to be very good in John Carpenter film is the cinematography. And working for the first time with cinematographer Gary Kibbe, who would end up working on many other films, including In the Mouth of Madness, really adapts very well to the Carpenter style of having all these nice wide angle shots and everything, and really kind of soak you into the moments of the film to really have what Carpenter does express as German expressionism, to linger on shots, really have the artistry of the shot kind of soak into you, and the intent of the shot soak into what you're trying to do. So even if the lighting style isn't so much of that stark type of stuff that you may associate with German expressionism, the intent of framing and the shots lingering, the editing and everything really kind of reflects that very well. And Kibbe, even though he's got this interior set and everything and location that is very brown and beige with a lot to really kind of make the eye pop and whatnot, he does good things with how to compose the frame and angle certain things, really kind of nail off certain atmospheric type of visuals throughout the entire course of the film. Really just adapts very well to Carpenter's style. Really makes you not see that there's a different guy behind the lens of this film. It very much drives forward a very good visual style for Carpenter that doesn't hit, again, as splashy as some things you've seen from the past with him, but it does hit off what he needs to with the environment he has to work with, especially when you're down in the basement of the church and having all those nice candles kind of glowing in the background, out of focus, all these different things that the art direction does a nice job in certain places to give him something to work with. But for a large majority of the film, there's not as much, but he makes the most of what he can do with a little bit of a bland background and whatnot. So the angles, the lenses, all these different things really work very nicely to the overall feel of the film and really push forward a very nice style for something that had a little bit low budget and whatnot, but still captures something very nicely on screen. And just the way John Carpenter crafts the atmosphere and the horror of this film is just absolutely fantastic, because he does so much with the mood, so much with these creepy elements throughout the whole film. Just the presence of the bugs alone and the worms and all the beetles and everything, that is just beautiful type of stuff that just creeps you, gets your skin crawling, especially when you got the character who gets killed by the vagrant and whatnot outside, and then turns into this sort of bug-infested man who gives that piece of dialogue saying, "I've got a message for you and you're not going to like it. Pray for death." And he just disintegrates in this pile of beetles and everything. That just creeps the fuck out of you. And just sets such a fantastic tone for this film. I mean, the tone starts off fantastic as it is, but as it escalates, it increases and gets you further deeper into just the hopelessness of the situation. This siege film is almost like with all the vagrants outside, with Alice Cooper, of all people, being invited in the film after John Carpenter met him at a WrestleMania, probably where he also maybe might have met Roddy Piper or whatnot for They Live. But just getting this collaboration between Alice Cooper and John Carpenter. Cooper was just like, I want to be in a John Carpenter film because they're so fantastic. I want to be in this film. And just adding in a little kind of a stage gag he had where he impaled someone with a microphone stand, kind of adapted that to a different thing in this film. So it's like a lot of good things. He even included a little bit of a piece of one of his own songs called Prince of Darkness into the film. So it's like a real good type of thing. But just having all these vagrants outside, being almost this mindless zombies and whatnot, kind of creating this perimeter around this church where no one can escape, no matter what they do. They're just caught in this whole thing, into the power, the centralized power that's stirring up this prebiotic fluid in the basement, and trying to just deal with all this type of stuff in this film. How, again, the fluid breaks out and starts infecting people and creating this sort of mindless servant race or whatnot that just pushes everything forward. And just like, again, it's wild, weird concepts in the film, but they hit kind of familiar beats that you can kind of relate to other things like a zombie film or a demon possession film or whatnot. There's like familiar concepts added in with a different, fresh twist to it that may or may not work depending on your opinion, but I think a lot of it just creates an interesting, unique feel to the film that just comes together so well. Just like all the elements kind of coalesce in this whole thing that just works nicely. It all feeds into one another. It all kind of makes sense in its own bizarre type of way, but just the creep factor of this film just keeps building up to the entire film. Again, the score is so relentless in this film, so pulsating with energy. It just keeps just driving forward that uncomfortable feeling that you have as this film just develops and pushes forward with all these characters. with everything closing in on, with more of them getting turned and under the spell, under the servitude of this other power and everything. Just getting into the siege mentality where they're just trapped in more claustrophobic environments and having to fight back however they can. They're just, it's amazing type of stuff in a certain way that Carpenter can take these elements, put them into a film that has a little bit of a strange type of twist to it all, and still comes off as very effective, that you're still engaged with the whole film, that you're still soaked into it, that you can still connect with it and still feel the terror of the whole thing, the atmosphere, the feeling of the film, the eeriness, the creepiness that kind of feeds into it all really is so good. And just having the extra added thing in the film, the video transmission from the future, using the sort of Star Trek-y type of thing of like tachyons traveling back through time and a specific trajectory of where the Earth was in the orbit around the sun, using that type of science and everything, and just having this transmission from the future of this dark cloaked figure coming out of the church and everything, all these characters trying to do whatever they can to avert what they think this is going to be. And then at the end of the film, after they think they've thwarted the evil and character of Catherine is kind of sacrificed herself to dispatch this evil, to force it back into its own realm and everything, you get this fantastic stinger, this hook of an ending and everything, where you get the transmission one more time. The character of Brian Marsh, who ends up seeing Catherine as this figure in the hallway, in the doorway of the church, and saying that they changed the future, but they didn't really change it. They didn't prevent it. They just altered certain elements of it. But it's a fantastic ending there. Just like that the entire video transmission thing. Without it, you wouldn't have such a great ending, but it adds so much of a different kind of element that you just kind of think in the back of your mind is kind of a weird thing, and you're not thinking that's going to feed into something like that by the end of the film. But the fact that it ends up paying off in a certain way, to have that, just that foreboding doom at the end of the film, that you think you vanquished the evil, but you really didn't. You just changed the circumstances of how it comes back in the year 1999, and just that final beat where Brian Marsh, Jameson Parker's character, just goes up looking into that mirror, and just like it cuts right before he touches it. Fantastic type of ending. I just love how that hits. I just love the idea of mirror images and mirror reflections, like kind of a mirror dimension type of thing, where like a dark version of what you see exists on the other side of that mirror. I just love that type of idea, and having this anti-god existing in this mirror dimension, affecting things in our world and everything. It's such an interesting, fascinating concept that, again, things go along in the film in a very speculative type of way that does kind of coalesce into what actually does happen, but it doesn't seem like it goes as far as it possibly could, but the ideas are just so intriguing in a certain way and just create such an atmosphere of eerie horror in this film. The ideas create something so palpable in the film. They just create something that just works towards the horror of it. You know, if you don't entirely understand the concepts of what is kind of jargoning out to you and everything, it does come to a head, comes to a payoff. You kind of understand the actions of what the characters are doing. If you don't understand the science, you do understand the intent of what they're trying to do, and understand when that mirror lights up and what they're trying to do, bring that father of Satan into our world and everything, all these different things. It's really good stuff in a certain type of way. It's like, it's such a film that I didn't really like it as much when the first couple times I saw it, but it's like one of those films that kind of grows on you. The more you watch it, the more you get into the mood of it, and more into the slow burn pace of it all. You kind of get to liking the film a lot. You just gotta get to appreciate what it is. So it's like, I can see how when this was released in '87, that critics just like, they saw it one time and really didn't connect with it. I could understand that, because the first time I probably saw it, I probably didn't think as strongly of it as I do now, definitely, or other Carpenter films like The Thing or whatnot. But it does build on you. It kind of grows on you over time. You just watch it a couple of times over and over again, and you get into the feeling of the film, what it really has to offer you. It's such a nicely well-constructed type of film that does have a few little fall-offs here and there. Like I said, the characters aren't as strong and substantive or memorable as you'd like them to be, but you got some good actors in there that can bring things forward, and especially being a couple of Carpenter regulars in there really kind of associates you back to Halloween or Big Trouble in Little China or Escape from New York or whatnot. It really is a nice thing to see that type of thing. You have a flavor of Carpenter familiarity in there with the characters of the cast and everything. And it's like, the score is so damn good, and all the different things with the cinematography does a nice job, and just the effects work of the film just really just hits off so really well in so many cases that it's such an interesting film. It's such a nice film to just soak yourself into, to sit down like Halloween night and just turn off the lights, whatnot, get everything really quiet, turn off the surround sound, get that feeling going on. You can really kind of get into the mood of the film, and just like, I really like it. I really like Prince of Darkness. Well, you got something so good as The Thing, and then you have In the Mouth of Madness, which has kind of got a strong cult following. Prince of Darkness is kind of in that middle zone somewhere in there where it is revered, but people kind of maybe overlook it a little too much, but it's such a nicely done film with so many good creepy elements to it. It's nice to revisit it. And you really do have to watch it a couple times to really get the ideas to hook in a little bit, because you really kind of need to kind of remind yourself exactly how all these little elements of the concepts of the science and theology, all these weird things kind of come together, because you really remember so much about the atmosphere of the film and how the creepy moments unfold, but you kind of get the details of it all really soaked into your brain. You do need a couple watches, so it's definitely a film that works so well on repeated viewings to get more and more out of it. So if you've only seen it once and probably didn't get as much from it, definitely give it another shot or two, because it really is one of those films that does require a little bit of time to kind of get into the feeling of. So I think Prince of Darkness is a really good type of horror film with a few little things that don't work as well. And even like I said, Carpenter thinks a lot of the weird scientific jargon and whatnot, all of these concepts, a little bit kind of mumbo jumbo type of stuff. They really didn't understand entirely what he was writing in there, or really remembers what the hell he was talking about at the time, but it comes together as a nice, entertaining, interesting horror film. So nice to see a little bit of experimentation in there, just trying to do something a little bit different, a little bit of ambition, a little bit trying to do something fresher at the time. Even if it doesn't work, it's nice to see someone try something a little bit different every so often. So guys, your thoughts about Prince of Darkness are extremely welcomed in the comments below. So I'm gonna get out of here. Your thumbs up on the video are always fantastically appreciated. So guys, Prince of Darkness, let me know what you think. I'll be back soon. But this is the end of Forever Horror Month for 2017. So guys, thanks much. Take care. Bye-bye.